Welcome back to my little gardening show. It's been a little while since I've live streamed anything, but really the reason for going live tonight is I've got a buddy named Frank. Lives out in Colorado. He was living in an RV that he had kind of converted into basically a mobile home type deal. And while he was at work, I guess there was a fire or something, and he basically lost everything. Salvaged a few items. So anyway, he reached out to me. His church is helping him out. He's got a place to live right now, food to eat, some clothes to wear, but not much else. And so I'm going to put a link in the description after we're done live streaming. There'll be a link with this live stream to his GoFundMe page that one of his friends out in Colorado set up for him. But anyway, good dude. Known him for a couple years. He's been like virtually through YouTube and whatnot. Passions. He enjoys gardening and growing things. He also loves the Lord and just a good dude. He's just kind of fallen on hard times and needs some help. So if you guys feel led or compelled, I want to check that out. That would be great. So yeah, that's kind of the gist. Other than that, the gardening season has, for the most part, come to a close. I think I've got some footage, but we were able to get out to the garden 2 weeks ago and basically clean everything up. Actually, no, it was a week and a half ago. Get out there that we got our frost early. You know, usually it comes around Halloween weekend, and it came, end of September. So about a month early. So pretty much killed the tomato plants. I mean, they were still kind of hanging on, but for the most part, everything was drying up. The only thing that's left out there is a kale, but we spent a couple hours, ripped everything out, got the gardens pretty much ready to go for the fall leaves that the township will be bringing us. I think we're going to try to get more this year so we have a pile through the season so we can continue to deep mulch through the growing season. But overall success. Let me show you some of the things we're able to get. So I made about 50 pints of salsa. From about September on, we were just crazy busy every weekend canning. We made some homemade pizza sauce. I got about 30 pints of this. And this is primarily the sauce tomatoes. And we've got just tomato sauce. That's a variety of tomatoes. I've got about close to 30 quarts of this. We've got 100 quarts of green beans. We only had to put up, I think 40 or 50 quarts this year. We had leftovers from last year we hadn't used yet. And then I got about, I think, 5 quarts of applesauce we put up this year, and then a whole bunch of apple butter. It's not including anything in the freezer. I've got all kinds of frozen onions, like chopped onions, that are in the freezer, chopped peppers that we're going to use in like chilies and pizzas. We still got a bunch of rhubarb from last year that's frozen for like pies and desserts and stuff. So overall, just a really, really productive year in the garden. Let's see what else. I haven't gone through these yet, but my sister, she works at Rural King, and they were getting ready. They were clearing up the display, and they were going to throw all these away. And where they're switching out their inventory and all that. So she grabbed, I don't know, a whole sack full, and there's quite a bit of seed packets here. So I need to go through and catalog those and sort them. It's kind of cool in the grow room. It's my the new light that I got this past year that worked out really well. I think it's on the highest setting. Turn that down a little bit. And then this one's still working fine. One thing that I underestimated was the amount of heat having two high power LED grow lights would put out. I had a problem with different mold on my tomato plants. It's like gray mold or something like that. But I had some disease problems because there wasn't enough air circulation or ventilation in this little closet. Normally I don't have a problem because it stays cool during the early spring, even beginning of summer. It's not too bad here, but because I had the two lamps going and was kind of running a dual setup, I had some challenges of having to prune the heck out of the tomato plants, the ones I gave to Tom over at Frugal Prepper. I grew for him. I think everything went well though. His tomatoes did fine, so we were able to manage all that. But anyway, I got some cleaning up to do. Hey, Frank. No problem, buddy. I'm gonna, once we're done streaming, I'm gonna put a link to your GoFundMe page. And hopefully there'll be some people that are, compelled or feel led to help you out, man. If I live closer, I'd be there helping you pick through the rubble. That's like crazy. I'm guessing you had like a heater going or something, or maybe it's something with the solar panels, maybe a battery or something. Do they know like what caused the fire? Trying to find my tripod, and I was unsuccessful, so I'm gonna have to switch arms as we're going here or find a ledge to put this on. Maybe that's what I'll do. That should stay. That's better. Yeah, I tell you, we did some home maintenance this past week, just trying to clean some stuff up, and I've been pretty fortunate not had any kind of like major issues. The only electrical issue we had in terms of like fire was a couple years ago. I remember we took our daughter out. Oh man. That's a bummer, man. We took my daughter out to a Japanese restaurant for her birthday or whatever. And we come back, and I noticed the Christmas lights in the front yard weren't working, and we had these miniature dachshund like displays or whatever. So saw that the breaker at the outlet was tripped. So I because it's got a ground fault interrupter circuit or whatever. Well, I went ahead and restored the um, reset it, and all of a sudden I hear this pop, and the one display just like bursts into flames. Like there's all this sparking and stuff, and then it lit up and started burning um, at near the plug and all that, and so I went ahead right at the outlet and unplugged it real quick. Otherwise it would have kept going, and and then repaired it. Ended up buying a kit to repair it and all of that, and we haven't had any problems since then. But man, we had a um, person from our this past year who had a house fire. I guess her daughter left a bathroom fan on, exhaust fan, and it burned up and caused a fire. But yeah, super glad that you're good. Everything's good. I mean, all that stuff can be replaced, right? I mean, yeah, it's going to take time and money, and but the main thing is that you're still you're fine. And we can replace most of everything you lost and all that. Hopefully, things work out as far as a working or living situation. Um, I guess you're staying with. Are you staying with family or friends, or is it people from your church? Guess while we're waiting on that answer here, probably next weekend, depending on the weather. This weekend we got a wedding we're going to, so I don't know how much I'll be in terms of getting some other things done like projects and stuff. But I'll be organizing things here. We'll clean up the grow room. Oh, okay. Yeah, depending on what it is. Some of those RVs are pretty nice. I know when we used to go to the lake, my in-laws had a fifth wheel trailer. Well, that's good. My in-laws had a fifth wheel trailer, and they just rented it space. I think it was like $300 a month to have it at this campground. They had like a deck, so they basically just pulled it up to the deck and parked it so that they had like an area with a picnic table and all this stuff. And it was hooked up to water and sewer. I think during the winter they would turn the water off, but you could still be hooked up to to the sewer, I believe. I'm trying to think how that worked, but they had to do some winterizing of it. But people would they'd live there year round. They'd glamp year round, and some of them were really nice. And um, and then if they wanted to pick up and leave and go somewhere else, they could. So it's a whole culture too. I remember we'd go up there, and there was like the same campers year after year would be there or whatnot, and it was like a pitch-in dinner um, every weekend. I mean, that was like their main thing was food. It was an older group, and so I mean, it was literally a feast every weekend, where they'd start Friday night, cook through the weekend. Um, Saturday would be college football. They put it up on a projector and all that, and then they would go to really late, in the evening, and then would be up the next morning, around 9 o'clock, and start making breakfast, like for everyone in the campground. I guess that was one of the perks of renting space from this guy who ran the campground or whatever, and nice dude. I mean, it was cool because I remember it was Halloween. We were up there one Halloween weekend one year, and the older folks, they all knew we had kids. They actually came to the camper we were at and brought candy to the kids. It was like reverse trick or treat. They kept coming and dropping stuff off, to the kids and stuff. They were just super happy that there were kids in the park, and that we were there and stuff. It was pretty neat. So, and my in-laws, they had a Google Calendar set up where all the different family members could have access, so you could reserve the camper. When you wanted to go up, you could see who was using it or if it was available. And so it was kind of neat to be able to do that. So I don't know, man. Hopefully that works out, and you guys, whether you end up getting a different RV or decide to end up, renting somewhere, or living with a family for a while or something. Hopefully something will work out, in that regard, and get back on your feet. What else can I show you here while we're down in the grow room? It's kind of been neglected. I haven't really spent. This is the first time I've been in here since the gardening. Since I had gotten everything going for the gardening season, I don't really use the grow room a whole lot during the summer, and I get back into it in the fall, usually because everything's done outside. So I'll clean it up real good and get everything ready for the winter. When we start thinking about growing stuff and starting seeds. I did made a couple videos on this soil block maker. I did do soil blocks this last year, and they worked pretty well. The only downside with them, though, is you have to kind of watch the weather, because if let's say you got all your individual plants, you've soil blocked, and you got your sprouts going, and there's a heavy downpour, it'll basically just wash them out, or like it becomes one big block, basically. I found that out the hard way. I had some lettuce sprouts going, I lost them, and then I was going to try to do a fall crop of cabbage and stuff. I had some really nice seedlings going, and then basically didn't think it was going to rain, and a pop-up storm came and washed the seedlings out. And so I was just like, well, I guess I'm not going to be doing a fall garden. I just didn't feel like messing with it after that. Um, but other than that, it was decent. I guess the other downside was it took some time to make the blocks. As opposed to filling one of these big pots and then just letting it go. And even if it does rain, it's got holes so that there's good drainage and stuff. I'll still use these, I think, for sure, for like the tomatoes and the peppers and all that. Maybe start them in soil blocks and then transplant them. But overall, it works pretty well. Took a little time to make the blocks, but it wasn't hard. There's a few little tips and tricks to figure all that out. I got my seed saving envelopes. These are basically just number 3 coin envelopes that I got from Office Depot. There's like 500 of them, so I've got, this will last me for probably a decade. There we go. I caught my phone before it hit the floor. I think it's still streaming. The other thing, we were cleaning up the other day, and I found my paper potter. This is another little gadget that's kind of neat. Where basically you get newspaper and tear it into strips, and then use this to roll your paper, and then you fold it on the bottom into that groove, and then just kind of press it in. And it worked out well. I've done paper pots before. A lot of this stuff, whether it's paper pots or the soil blocker, it works fine if you're doing stuff on a smaller scale. The soil blocker would probably work. It works okay even on a larger scale. It's just gonna have more time invested in making the blocks. But really, for the small scale, hobby gardener like myself, that stuff's fine. But when you start scaling up, like, things do need to be more efficient. I could spend 2 hours making soil blocks and this, that, and the other, or I could spend like 15 minutes just filling a tray and seeding it, right? So it's all kind of just, a function of like time and, how efficient you want to be with things, or if you just want to take your time and kind of enjoy doing something a little different. So my worm bin is inactive. There's worm castings in there. But if I do worms again, I'll probably do a different setup. This system, I never got it to work the way it was supposed to, unless maybe I had the wrong type of worms. But supposedly, with the red wigglers, after they are more or less finished tray and you put a new tray on top and start putting food in it, they're supposed to migrate into that new tray. And I'd have some migrate up, but there'd always be plenty that were still in the existing tray. I couldn't get them all to migrate up, so I ended up having to sift the finished tray anyway, to make sure there weren't any worms in it, and the compost I was pulling out of it. A little bit of a pain, whereas with the flow-through setup, could have potentially gotten a flow-through setup where you're just harvesting castings from the bottom continually, right? As you're putting food in the top, they're finishing it out. It flows through to the bottom, and then you're constantly removing, or periodically removing castings from the bottom. So if I do worms again, I'll probably get a different setup and try that out. What else we got down here? So I do have some leftover potting mix, which is good. I almost have a full brick. So that's going to save me money because each of these is about $50. I get about a third of a bag of worm castings. That's about $40 to get a full. I think that's a 40-pound bag. And then I get some coconut coir that I was using as part of the mix for the soil blocks that I was making. It worked out pretty well. Got some miscellaneous things to put away, some stray envelopes. Got the garden planter. I had ordered one of these for this year, and they ended up sending me the one for last year. I emailed them about it, and they never sent me the right one. So if I do order one of these again, I'll probably get it from somewhere else. But I actually got an Excel spreadsheet where I more or less got this all programmed in Excel, and where I can just change the date and it updates depending on the year, so I don't really need this. Though this is kind of a nice little stocking stuffer gift, and it's kind of handy to slide it around based on your frost date. Kind of tells you your planting dates, your window when you can plant things. I did find my 13 millimeter socket. My son was carrying a toolbox and I dropped it, and all the sockets went all over the place. And he found them all except for the 13. Well, I found the 13, so we'll be putting that back. I don't know, Frank, are you still there? I see people popping on. 1, 2, sometimes 3, and then we go back down to 1. Let's see if this place works better. It's up a little higher. Yeah, man, on a personal note, I don't know, I think everybody can relate. You go through, it's kind of like what Solomon writes in Ecclesiastes, a time for everything, where seasons are changing and whatnot. But just like the ebb and flow of like nature and the garden and like the cycle of things where, there's a new life, like growth period, fruit, harvest, and then, things die off or whatever. And then there's this kind of, time of inactivity, kind of fallow time, as winter sets in, and then we get into the spring and it starts all over again. Seems to be true, like, personally. Like in, life where you have seasons of activity and whatnot, and then those things kind of come to a close, or things shift, and then you end up adjusting or moving on. Sometimes that's adjusting to like a loss, and a lot of it has to do with expectations, where maybe you're expecting certain things to happen or an outcome, and it doesn't come to fruition, or just things change. And then, you have to adjust. You can lament, and be grieved over that, but you don't want to stay there. I said, just, it's appropriate to stay there for a while and just reflect on things, and get perspective, but then it's good to
to move forward. So I don't know if I encourage you. Frank Biles reading the Word. I try to read, in the mornings just to kind of set my mind, and orient myself and kind of renew my mind and get the right perspective on things. It's actually about 2 weeks ago. I've been in the book of John, just kind of reading through that, meditating on that. And I guess in chapter 1's like the story of the call of Nathaniel or whatnot. And basically, the gist of it is, Philip and John have been following John the Baptist, and John the Baptist pointed out, hey, behold, here's a Lamb of God, who takes away the sin of the world. Anyway, they follow Jesus, right? And then Philip goes to get Nathaniel. He says, hey, we found the one the prophets have spoken about, written about, we've Jesus of Nazareth, and he's like, what? Nazareth? Can anything good come from Nazareth? And so Philip says, well, come and see. So as he's coming, approaching, Jesus says, hey, behold, here's an Israelite in whom there's no guile. And Nathaniel's like, what? How you know me? And Jesus said, well, I saw you when you were sitting under the fig tree, which was, miraculous. And Nathaniel realized pretty quickly, wow, okay, you're the Messiah. And Jesus said, you believe because I told you you're sitting under the fig tree. Behold, you're going to see even greater things than these. You're going to see the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man and whatnot. So I just kind of glossed over that. I was reading, and then it's kind of called back to that. I was kind of meditating on that a little bit, and it's kind of like the Lord was kind of encouraging me, hey, I know you, I see you, and you're gonna see greater things than these. There's other things I want to show you, as you're walking with me. So, anyways, just encouraging. Yeah, we're just kind of midst of change, just a lot of things going on. Got the 2 kids in school right now, college, navigating all that, being, helping them when we got a lot of things in terms of, we serve quite a bit in our local church, and things are changing there, in terms of we're finishing our terms, in terms of things we agreed to do. There's a 3-year stint. So that's coming to a close. And been a lot of change at work in the last 6 months. My boss retired. We've got some department changes. We hired another person in our department, and she's worked out really well. But just change is stressful. It can be, and because you get comfortable, you get used to how things are and what to expect, and you're kind of in a groove, and then things shift. And you have to adapt, and kind of navigate, figure out what you're going to do, what you're supposed to do. So anyway, I guess that's all of my little rant. Doesn't look like Frank's around anymore. So I'm going to jump off here, but I will put the link to the GoFundMe
in the description of this this live stream, so you guys can go check out. Whoever stumbles across this little live stream and actually makes it to the end can, or catches some of the beginning, can check out the GoFundMe and make a donation if you feel so compelled. So I guess that's it for now. Until next time, happy gardening. Bye.